Hi, in this video we're going to be covering functions and subqueries in MySQL. We already touched subqueries in a previous uh, video, but we're going to be going into a little bit more details in here. So the functions basically they are supercharging your queries. They are essential tools in SQL that allow you to manipulate and transform data, basically adding a lot of efficiency to your queries. We're going to be going into different types of functions. So starting with a string function, right? As you can think of it as like they basically manipulate the strings. Uh, we have concat, normally used like this: string one, string two, and so on. So they combine multiple strings into one. Then we have length of a string. Sorry, Panda. So that is gonna find the length of a string, how long the string the string is. Then we have upper, which would convert a string to an uppercase. Then we have lower, which would, as you can think, this would as you can guess that this is gonna convert the string into lowercase. Then we have got the substring of string, and you also need to give it a starting place and then the length of that. So an example is gonna be if you have sub a string of, you can say, hello world, and you want it to start from 0 1 2 3 4 5, starting from 5, and the length start at location 5, and the total length I want is gonna be the next 5 characters, which is 1 2 3 4 5. So you can actually select the word from the hello world. Okay, now the common use cases of these functions. Uh, One common one is gonna be when you are trying to combine the first name and the last name to make it a full name. You would be using the concatenation, right? Then, if you are trying to count the number of characters in a product description, so how long the product description is, you would use the length. If you are trying to standardize the text data, so maybe you want to use all uppercase or lowercase, maybe for the product codes, then you're going to be using that. Substring, a common example is going to be if you are trying to extract specific parts of email addresses or the website URLs, you're going to be using the substring. Okay, the next one is related to date and time. So a very famous one is gonna be the current date. So what it gives you, you can get the current date with the current date. Uh, but if you use now, then you're gonna be getting the current date and the time, right? But then the other ones are basically uh, year and the date. It's gonna give you the year of that date. Basically extract the year from a date. Similarly, month, on a date, it can you can extract the month from a date. then day. From a date is basically extract the day from the date. Then we have another one, date add. So this is gonna take a date and an interval. So that would basically add, or you can similarly subtract the specified interval, uh, and that could be in the days, months, and year to a date. So it's a date addition or subtraction can be done. Again, in terms of the common use cases, consider you are trying to filter orders placed within a specified date range. You're gonna need that. Then, if you are calculating the age of customers based on their birth dates, you're gonna need that. If you are tracking changes made to data by recording timestamps, or if you are analyzing the trends over time, like maybe daily website traffic, that kind of stuff, you're gonna need this. Then we're gonna go into numeric functions. So the numeric functions are gonna be, a common one is gonna be round, and it takes a number and like decimals. So what it does is like it round a number to a specified number of decimal places. Then another one is a ceiling and a number. That would be it's gonna round a number up to the nearest integer, right? But it would take the up, not the down to the nearest integer. The other one, on the other hand, which is the floor on a number, is going to round a number down to the nearest integer. So an example is gonna be 5.3 is gonna make it 6, and 5.3 is gonna make it 5. Okay, then we have the ABS, which stands for absolute. So what it does is it calculates the absolute value of a number. Then we have square root of a number. It calculates the square root of a number. Now, in terms of the common use cases, now you can calculate the average order value, product price after discount, or distance between locations. You can use these functions. If you are trying to find the highest or the lowest sales figures from different categories, you can use these functions. Also, if you are trying to determine the percentage change in the stock levels over time, you can use those. Now we're gonna talk about another category, which is the called the aggregate function. A common one is gonna be count. Then we have count is again, it's gonna give you the count of the number of rows in a table or a column. Sum of columns is gonna give you the sum. Average on a column is gonna give you the average. Then we have min on columns. Then we have max on columns. So the common use cases are gonna be like if you're trying to find the total number of customers, products, or orders in a database. Another one can be if you are trying to calculate the average rating for the products or reviews. Then if you're identifying the category with the highest or the lowest total sales, or you are analyzing some trends and patterns in live data sheets using summary statistics, stuff like that. Okay, now we wanted to get into the the subqueries. As I said, we already talked a little bit about it, but we're gonna go into like basically we want to know what happens when we start using functions in the subqueries. So subqueries, or you can call them nested queries. So in terms of the types of the subqueries, again, as we did talk about it, that they are the building blocks. They basically feed the outer query some results, and you can actually kind of have multiple subqueries feeding a result to the outer queries in order to come with a complicated or a analysis or any kind of uh, data manipulation you're trying to do. So in terms of the types, we had like a single row subquery, again return the single value used within the outer query. So example is gonna be find all customers who placed orders exceeding a certain amount in the last month. So that is basically it returns a single value used within the outer query. Then we have multiple multiple row subquery. It returns a set of rows used within the outer query. Okay, so example is gonna be list the top five most popular products based on their total quantity sold. That's gonna be like we are kind of making sure that we get multiple rows back. Then we had the correlated subquery. It references the columns from the outer query. So an example is gonna be ensure a new customer email uh, doesn't already exist before adding it. So you can actually have a subquery which checks the existing emails, and so basically you have some correlation in between, and then you can actually say that okay, uh, that thing does not happen, and then we're gonna run that the next one. So as I said, you're looking at a customer's email address, it does not exist at the beginning in the subquery, and then you make sure that you insert it as a new one. So in terms of the use cases, we can do some filtering based on the dynamic criteria. So maybe think of an example as like finding the customers who placed orders exceeding a certain dynamically calculated threshold. For example, like the average order value from their city, or you are doing some kind of complex comparisons, right? You are identifying the products with the higher average rating than a specific like a competitor's product. Uh, you can think like another example could be data validation and consistency checks. So you are making sure that you are preventing the duplicate entries. You don't have end up putting like basically making sure that that data is not there before. So again, like in terms of the clauses, the subqueries are normally used with where, then we have select and having. So these are uh, the things you're gonna be basically normally using in subqueries. Okay, now the thing we wanted to cover the last is like what happens when we have functions within the subqueries. So there is like in terms of the basically when the functions and they come together, we can end up in different situations. The one is functions within sub queries. That's the first one. So So when the functions are within the subqueries, they are gonna enhance the subquery result. They can perform the calculations and data transformation within the subquery before using it in the main query. So an example is like, think of it this way, that we are finding customers whose total order value in the last year is above the average order value. So maybe you're gonna have a subquery calculating the individual customers to total order value using a function, and then compare it to the average calculated in the main query. Then the next type is gonna be if you have aggregate functions within, where the sub queries. So if you are summarizing the, so basically it's just like basically we're saying that what happens if the aggregate functions are in the subqueries. So an example it could be that if you are identifying a product categories with the highest average rating for orders placed in the last quarter. So if you have to do that, maybe you would need a subquery filters, which filters the orders by date, then calculates average rating per category within the subquery using an aggregate function. You could end up having a nested subqueries. We did talk about that. An example of this is gonna be like, maybe you are uh, maybe you're gonna have like, you're finding the customers who live in a city with a population exceeding 1 million and have placed more orders than the average customer in the city. So that would be, you are doing two multiple subqueries and then trying to get the final results. Okay, again you can have these functions, and like the combination can be even you can have an advanced function combinations where like you have functions maybe in the subqueries and even in the outer subqueries, that sorry outer queries. So it can basically, the more functions you use, uh, it uh, it's gonna it can basically it is the purpose of this categorization is to tell you that the aggregate functions, the nested can come into subqueries, they can come into the nested subqueries, they can come with any kind of combination with the subqueries. And that's all I wanted to cover in this video. Thanks for watching.